Welcome back to the Thinking Crypto podcast, your home for cryptocurrency news and interviews. Today, we're kicking off a new series called Crypto Water Cooler. I'm your host, Tony Edward, and our co-host and special guest is Vanessa Vargas, who is the founder and host of the Unraveling Crypto podcast. Vanessa, welcome. How are you doing?
Thank you so much. I am really excited just to get this series kicked off. It's always good to connect with everyone and then be able to share what's happening in the space. So I'm really excited for this.
For sure. Since it's your first time on the show, I would love for you to maybe tell folks about your podcast so they get to know you a bit better.
Yeah, so the podcast launched about a year ago. Unraveling Crypto is really an exploration about Bitcoin, crypto, Web3, and ideally it's a bridge for folks that are not really necessarily in the Web3 space, but are curious, want to know what's going on. And it's about interviewing different guests and leaders, entrepreneurs who are in the space sharing what they love.
Love it. And folks, Vanessa is in Miami, so all of us in the Northeast or in the Northern Hemisphere, we should be jealous. She's down there in the crypto hub, enjoying the great weather. You got Mayor Francis Suarez and all that.
Yeah, I try not to, I cannot ever complain about weather with anyone. It's like you have like lost those privileges.
Man, every time I go to Miami, I'm like, I need to be here. I need to be here. It's like
Yeah.
well, Miami and Santa Monica, California. Those two places.
Ooh.
Yeah. I love Santa
Yeah, I
Monica.
mean, California has like beautiful weather all the time in a different way. Here it's humid. So, but it's beautiful. We cannot complain.
For sure. I mean, and just the vibe too, the energy. And then, a lot of crypto folks, a lot of tech companies been going to Florida and Miami
Yeah.
specifically. So it's like, it's the happening, area and the crowd is there. So
Oh yeah, it's growing so much. There is always traffic. Before at least there would be non-hours. Now it's all the time. But we'll welcome everyone, especially crypto.
sure. All right. So Bitcoin, what the hell is going on? Bitcoin's been acting like a stable coin. It's been like boring, even as a content creator. I'm like, okay, Bitcoin, do something. You know that meme with the stick, like you're trying to get Bitcoin to do something?
Yeah. I agreed. I mean, I think it's just been in a space, there's a lot happening developing on top of Bitcoin, but Bitcoin itself is still, I mean, in some ways it kind of feels good that it's not moving too much, but we'll see also with what's coming up with Balaji's, take.
Oh, that's a great point, right? Balaji's $1 million in 90 days. Um, I think you and I in a recent interview we talked about it. I'm like, okay, great marketing campaign. It aligns with Bitcoin's bullish rally off of the bottom. But $1 million is crazy. And then it also seems like while we are in a tough economic spot, it's not going the direction Balaji's talking about of like continued collapses and so forth. It seems, if I may be wrong, but things have settled down a little bit with these banking collapses and so forth.
Yeah. And, hopefully it also stays that way because we also don't want that. It could also be like the calm before the storm too. I think that there's, a lot of people talking about the recession and the tail signs of that. So we will see about how that also impacts Bitcoin and the whole space in general.
Yeah, it's a great point you brought up. If Bitcoin were to get to $1 million, it would probably be really bad out there in the TradFi world, like lots of collapses and people forced to move to Bitcoin. I don't want that.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, Actually, I can share my chart real quick that I've been looking at. And you could just see like Bitcoin is like on the weekly chart is like consolidating like it has in the past.
Mm.
And if my drawings here, my amateur drawings are correct, it could, move to 30 to 40K in the coming months, but yeah, I think it's going to be a slow grind. But when it moves, like we saw in early March, it'll move strong. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, it would be nice to see definitely an uptick, but time will tell.
For sure. Now, something really interesting happened last week. A huge Easter egg, just in time for Easter. Apple apparently put copies of the Bitcoin white paper on all Macs. I think I forgot which number operating system. I think it's 10.14 or something and after. But that's wild. I was blown away, and I went to look it up on my Mac. I'm like, this is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, really cool, really awesome for that. Why I'm always thinking about like, why would they do that? What's the purpose behind this? And just really interesting that that's happening. I think it sparked up a lot in the Twitter, crypto Twitter, about the whys, and just everyone's just excited for that. What are your takes on this?
Man, I have a couple of theories. One, that some random developer or somebody snuck it in there who codes the operating system. And two, maybe Apple did this as an Easter egg. And it, maybe Tim Cook as the CEO knew about it as well, because he holds Bitcoin. He's come out and said that he holds Bitcoin, I think Ethereum as well. So it could be one of the two things. I'm leaning towards they knew. I think they did it as an Easter egg, but it's so fascinating, and the way it's hidden as well.
Yeah. I mean, I'm also curious to think like you said, I think the Easter egg, it's also a great marketing, for Apple, constantly like, hey, maybe there's not much happening. Let's like fire things up a little bit. And I think that this draws also a different type of demographic to Apple too. Cause I mean, I feel like a lot of the hardcore Bitcoiners might have a different type of computing system. I don't know. That's just my thoughts. Not sure.
No, great point you brought up, that it's a great marketing strategy. It'll get you, like we saw all over Twitter, all the media folks are talking about it now, like, oh, the Bitcoin's white paper hidden on Apple computers. Great marketing. I think what's the saying? Any type of media or attention, good or bad, it's all good. I don't know.
All PR. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, I'm waiting for like somebody from Apple to come out and say, yeah, we did it. But they've been quiet. I tweeted.
Yeah, I think no, and I feel like this is what's really interesting about it too. Like, it's like, how did it come about? It adds to the mysteriousness of it all. What did you tweet?
Oh, I tweeted at Tim Cook on Apple. It's like, hey, is this like legit? Like, did you guys do this on purpose, or was there like a rogue employee that just, added it on here?
Yeah.
It's funny. The guy
upset.
Yeah, it's funny. The guy who found it, he was just like trying to fix his scanner or something, connecting to his Mac, and it's like so hidden. It's really fascinating, because the other aspect to this, I was talking about it in one of the podcasts, is that Bitcoin and crypto is seeping into pop culture and society, where you go back, I don't know, even just 5 years, it was kind of taboo to do things like this or be associated. Now it's like everybody's jumping on the train.
Yeah, and I think that this is where a lot of the marketing and the storytelling will need to shift in terms of like dropping the jargon. And we're starting to see it with ticketing, with NFTs. It's just like, we're not going to say like, oh, I have an NFT to enter the space. It's just going to be a ticket, right? And I mean, it's really cool that we're part of like that history that we talk about. We know the little details and the nuances, but for the masses, it's just not really going to matter, and it's just going to be a part of it. But we're seeing like you said, it's really awesome that the majority of people are using it and like are adopting it, and there is going to be a culture shift, and also with AI to being involved in all of that.
Yeah, great point. I think to what you're saying, like the next billion people won't necessarily care, oh, this is an NFT or which blockchain is it running on. It's just that it functions, and that's okay, right? that's just life. That's just civilization. Not everybody cares about the same thing or wants to invest in the same thing. But the early adopters like us and people who are taking a bet on these blockchains could do really well.
Yeah.
And if they've been investing in the past bull markets, also did well. So yeah, great point. So speaking of NFTs, there continues to be rumors of Amazon's NFT marketplace, and I'm super excited about this. Have you like caught up with it? Oh, what's been happening?
Not too much, but I mean, anything that when we hear about Amazon or these, even like Facebook, when they were going to do like, well, they took out that feature now on Instagram, Meta Instagram, and now seeing Amazon maybe possibly create this, well, officially, whenever they officially announce, I think that's going to be really interesting because it's going to hopefully onboard a new wave of individuals. But yeah, tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, it makes sense what Amazon is trying to do because eBay, they adopted NFTs as well, but Amazon has a huge customer database. And I use Amazon, I'm a Prime customer. So if they were to integrate it, and for years, I was speculating, oh, they could create Prime Coin and all that. Maybe they eventually will. But to have NFTs in a marketplace, it absolutely makes sense. You're already a marketplace. You have millions of customers. And if you're able to tie your NFTs not just to artwork, but to the products, like maybe it's from certain brands, and it will just be like a natural segue into customers saying, oh, yeah, I'll just go buy this collectible from, I don't know, X company or Y company because I already buy their products or I get it. And then maybe there's a secondary market that you can resell the NFTs. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, it's going to be really interesting about how, like, who they're going to partner with and what's going to come out in the first time that what they're going to showcase. I feel like that's going to be really innovative. But like you said, all the points you mentioned, just what's the use cases for this moving forward. And I think it also brings, like I said, new people into using, because Amazon, like, everybody has Prime without even knowing you have Prime. It's just so natural. So yeah, it's going to be interesting.
For sure. And there's been like some details that were like, I don't want to say leaked, but shared from third party sources, according to the reports. They're going to use like a private blockchain that I guess they develop, but they mentioned they may integrate other public blockchains. I think that's a smart way to go because there's so many like NFTs on Polygon or Ethereum or whatever it is, right? Or Solana. But I'm curious, about their blockchain, even though it's private. You won't be able to see much, but that's one thing I've been trying to see if I can find any information scouring the web.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting. Why would you think that they would do a private blockchain?
I think it's kind of like a bit of security. Like,
okay,
I think a lot of companies, I think in the future of crypto and blockchain, you're going to have a lot of private blockchains with like enterprises that have their own, like JP Morgan, when they created Quorum, which was a fork of Ethereum, and they made JPM coin, you can't access that. That's just within their banking system. But they will allow interoperability where you can plug into public blockchains. So I think it's a security layer, and I don't blame them. Like if you're a big company like that, you're public, you have millions of customers. We're still so early that even though you may trust a blockchain like Polygon, there's still a risk because it hasn't how should I put it, scaled to 1 billion customers. I don't know. What do you think about it?
I think so too. I think also, like, I'm always thinking about a marketing perspective. I mean, 100%. Your point, I think, is well taken, and I feel like that's also the future. But from a marketing perspective, you also don't want to just put your eggs in one basket and just say, like, we're going on ETH or Polygon. And I think this is an opportunity that we're seeing interoperability really here, because they're going to be most likely, like you said, integrating other blockchains, but it's that like bridge that we're going to be able to use multiple blockchains, and that's definitely where we're heading.
For sure. Yeah, I'm really excited about that because I feel like it could be a catalyst Like, the headlines, Amazon launches NFT platform. I mean, it's going to get everybody's attention. And maybe, look, the timing, it's so funny. And I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, but I know like companies and people watch the charts and they know when things are about to like break out from a technical standpoint. I feel they launch their news at the same time to get the most eyeballs and hype. So I feel like Amazon, they're closely watching this, and I think they may launch by the end of Q2.
Mm.
Hopefully I'm right, and hopefully that aligns with Bitcoin going to like 40 to 50K, but we'll see.
Yeah. I think you're right. These people are really smart. They analyze data, they analyze everything to make sure that when something goes out, it's like on point.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to your point, like you were saying before, like marketing, like timing, right? Timing is
Yeah.
everything. When there's fear out there, you don't want to be launching something and trying to get people to pay attention. If there's a war going on, like, or, bad news, certainly not.
Yeah.
So I know you had a topic about decentralized exchanges and how like Uniswap has been blasting off. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, so I think one of the recent news has been that Uniswap has kind of been taking lead over Coinbase, and well, I think things will begin to shift, but like the DEXs versus like the centralized exchanges, because of the scrutiny and the regulations and all that's been happening, I think that's taken a bit of investors seeing more of the security in going into like Uniswap and how they have been, beating the volume of Coinbase. So it's really interesting to see that in our space. Like we all, of course, we want to see more decentralized. We understand that, not your keys, not your coins, and it's just really interesting. So yeah.
It's interesting because when I looked at this topic and I was reading a bit of the article, I thought back to just look at what happened last year with Celsius and FTX, and this doesn't surprise me. People are like, "F the centralized exchanges. I'm going to a decentralized exchange." And to your point, I think it's the future. We're just going to keep becoming more decentralized, and these centralized entities that are popping up in crypto, while not all of them are bad, or like Coinbase, I think is great, and there's other exchanges. I still think eventually these centralized exchanges will have to build decentralized exchanges, if that makes sense, like a part of their business, because people are just going to be like, you know what? No, we're just going to go on a DEX because I don't trust what's happening on like, look at the FTX and so forth.
Yeah, and there is not a lot of transparency. We don't know. It's kind of like the similar replay of everything that has been happening, and even with the banking system. So you're right. I think that we are going to see that shift happening. At the same time, with the recent news of like the U.S. Treasury releasing the 42-page on DeFi, I think that puts also a big damper on DeFi.
Yeah, I mean, the old guard is fighting hard, man.
Yeah.
They're fighting. They get into all these reports, and of course, the Operation Choke Point 2.0 and all these government agencies. I mean, you just look at a lot of crypto companies are trying to like fight on behalf of Tornado Cash and like, hey, look, you're trying to shut down code, but the bad actor still exists regardless, right? This is just human civilization. There's bad people doing bad things. They've been doing it since the beginning of time, and they do it with gold or fiat, or they'll do it with crypto. You have to stop the bad actors. It's not the tech, but I think they use some of these things as a front to say, oh, you see, they're doing illegal stuff, but they themselves are getting disrupted, so they want to shut it down. But I think we've seen throughout history, whether you're horse and buggy, you're the candle maker, you're the phone book maker, you're going to get disrupted. You can fight, but you're going to get disrupted.
Yeah. And I think, a lot of the experts or, people that know a little bit more about DeFi and how it's working, they read through the paper and understood that the ultimate sentiment is that they are threatened and they need to slow it down. I think this is, like you said, they eventually know that DeFi is going to be a really big part, and how can you slow that down while we figure out a solution, while we figure out other ways. Because a lot of what they were saying is like money is being laundered, like there's bad people using this, and that's an opportunity, like DeFi is not regulated, and that allows for like the anti-money laundering laws to not take effect. So they're using a lot of these things to prove their point.
Mm-hmm.
But then they also acknowledge that a lot of these transactions are happening in fiat.
Yeah,
So it's like, okay.
I know. It's like, so why aren't you stopping the fiat stuff, right?
Yeah.
But that's just, it gets me so annoyed, because it's like they're fooling a lot of people, and who may be passively looking at crypto, and they just read headlines and things like that. When it's like, hey, look at all things equally. Look at the full landscape, right? Crime happens every day. Yes, we don't want crime to happen, but you have to just go after the bad actors. It's not the platform. And one thing, crypto, I often remind people, it's a global asset class. So even if one country is like, oh, we're going to stop this and do this, yeah, good luck trying to police the entire world with people on smartphones and, can self-custody and have their private keys. Like you and I can do a DeFi transaction. And we're in the United States, but let's say you were in Australia and I was in some country in Africa or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What's the United States going to do about that? Right. So they have to bring some common sense and logic to this.
Yeah, I think for the short term, we are seeing a lot of founders in the DeFi space perhaps be a little bit more concerned, because there might be regulations that are coming, and that at the end of the day, regulations also stifles innovation and what's being built. And if there are going to be parameters, I think that is worrisome for some people. But again, time would tell.
Yeah, I think I've been, talking about it. Like, I think we're in for a rough patch over the next year and a half. And then hopefully, by next year, there's some sort of regulations. I think we're still in the eye of the storm of these government agencies and folks on the attack. I think just this morning, I saw a New York Times article trying to paint Bitcoin mining in like this horrible end of world apocalypse scenario. And it's like, oh my God. And then like they even got like the names of like the locations of the Bitcoin miners wrong. So it was just like clear hit piece. I wouldn't be surprised if Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett funded it.
Oh yeah. I think like you said, we're heading into really challenging moments with DeFi and crypto in general. And it's just an opportunity to buckle down and double down on what we believe, and seeing also what can be built out of this. Sometimes the pressure and the lack, in a way, creates a lot of innovation, creativity, and new ways of doing things.
Absolutely. That's a great point. We've seen it time and time again. The more they try to fight and stifle it, the stronger it becomes, and people find different avenues. Mm-hmm. You just look at the music industry trying to fight Napster and music download and file sharing, right? What did they have to do eventually? They had to adapt to the technology. They couldn't stop it. So CFTC sued Binance. And there's so many layers to this, because we know Binance is at the top of the hill. It's the largest crypto exchange in the world. It's been that way for a long time. And I'm sure the United States would love to shut Binance down because they process so much transactions in crypto trading, and they have such a large footprint. And of course, there's Binance US. I'll share some of my thoughts, and I'd love to get your thoughts as well. I feel like there's a big effort, and I saw Kevin O'Leary was reiterating some of these statements since the FTX collapse, that Binance is this and Binance is bad, and Congress has talked a bit about it. So they're trying to take Binance down. And I think, though, this case against, or the case the CFTC has, I think years ago, Binance did do some shady stuff, but I don't think that's the case now. From how I've seen, they have updated their terms, what they offer, what they don't offer in certain regions. What's your take on this and what's been happening?
Yeah, I think really similar to what we have been sharing and what you're saying. Like, I I don't know what they've done in the past, but I think right now they're doing business as they should. But this is another opportunity to dive into what they did wrong and try to shut it down. Like I said, they're trying to come at it from so many different ways. And even though it is centralized exchange, it's a big way of you bridging your way towards crypto. So I mean, everybody knows about this. It is the biggest, like you talked about. So we will see what ends up coming out of this. But I think that if there was any shady business, it's going to be affected in some way, shape, or form, because that's how they're just gonna leverage that.
Yeah, hopefully it's just like they pay a fine for what took place maybe in 2018, 2019, and
Yeah.
then they keep going. CZ, I don't know if you saw his, like, he keeps sharing number four, which at the beginning of the year, he gave a list of things that they're looking to do. And he said number four is ignore FUD and so forth. So it's become like a meme now.
Yeah.
And then one of the great things that CZ is doing, which I really appreciate, is that he's on Twitter and he's addressing these things.
Yeah.
I think that's important. When you go quiet and you're not answering, then it gets worrisome. But he's like, hey, here's the nuance to what they're doing here, what they're accusing us of doing. So that's really great. The other layer to the CFTC lawsuit is that, contrary to the SEC, they're saying Ethereum, stablecoins, and some other cryptos are not securities; they're commodities. Further highlighting the mess that is the United States and the regulators right now. It seems like there's a bit of a land grab, a power struggle here between the two agencies. The SEC is, of course, bigger, and Gary wants everything to be a security with the exception of Bitcoin. Yeah. Oh, what are your thoughts on that?
I think this happens when you have people that don't fully understand what's going on, I think. And you have, like you said, this is the funky thing about the United States too, that there's just so many different power, like, individuals that feel that things should go in a certain way. And at the end of the day, we're not united, and not even through this way. And it's new innovation. No one understands it really. You have to be in it to, I think, really take a grasp of what it's going to, like, what the actual thing is. And I feel like that's the ultimate thing. They don't know, and they're putting out different statements, which is just confusing at the end of the day. And for companies, you get fined either way. So it's like there is no winning. And I think that that's also like a tactic probably that they're trying to employ.
It's true. Great point. Like, divide and conquer, right? Get the industry confused. This agency's coming after you, and then the other one's coming after you, and nobody knows what to do. And we saw, like, some companies were like, hey, we're getting out of the US, Bittrex, and some others, which is really sad. It's like those economic benefits should be here. Jobs, revenue, taxation. Look, well, I hate taxes, but still, those benefits are leaving the country. And then there was also, like, some FUD around CZ about Interpol coming after him. I don't know if you saw that.
I haven't seen that one. Oh my God, there's so much.
There's so much. Sometimes I need to turn off crypto Twitter because I'm like, all right, this is too much. Like,
I got too deep in the hole.
Yeah, it's like so much information. Sometimes it's so toxic and stupid. So I'm like, all right, I'm turning off Twitter. I'm not even going to look at it for the next few hours or so. But yeah, and then CZ came out once again, like, saying, hey, this is all FUD. And actually, I think Kobe, who I think he runs the Up Owning podcast. I was disappointed in him. I think he was the one who started. And I wish people wouldn't do that. Like, at a time when the industry needs to come together and we don't need to be fighting among each other and causing confusion. Like, we have a bigger enemy. Like, we got to fight. It's just, I hate that sometimes, but I guess it's human nature.
Yeah, it totally is, but I agree with you. And it happens the same thing with the Bitcoin and the maximalism. And, there's so much separation when we really shouldn't. We should be working towards together, even though there are going to be differences and all of these things like tearing other people down or spreading misinformation or all of that. It makes things worse, really.
Yeah, and hopefully we can mature and come together, and
Yeah.
more of us can work together. But yeah, I'm constantly like tweeting at Bitcoin Maxis like chill out, man. Like, come on, we got to work together, because they're always like, this is a shit coin and that's this and that. I'm like,
Oh,
dude, you do realize the SEC has not approved a Bitcoin spot ETF, and they have approved a short and a futures. Clearly, they don't want it to grow. So I don't know. And then we got like the Warren Buffetts and the Charlie Mungers with unlimited capital that hate Bitcoin. So it's like we all got to come together and fight.
yeah. Agreed. Um, Anything else that you feel like is super important to talk about with the Binance that, or like any takes for you?
Um, I'm just curious as to, will they shut Binance US down? Even though it's not entirely Binance.com, they use like a secondary business like a DBA, do
Okay.
business as. I think BAM Trading powers the whole engine behind Binance US. Um, but I hope they don't shut Binance US down. I think that would be the easiest thing. I don't think they can touch Binance.com because it's international,
Yeah.
but it will really suck if they shut down Binance US. But I think they want to.
Mm,
So we'll see. And then I know Coinbase, they got a Wells notice from the SEC just a couple of weeks ago. So they said they're going to fight the SEC. We'll see.
yeah.
It's rough out there. Not financial investment advice, but I've been telling people like take some profits off the table just in case things get a little rough later this year. If you're able to,
Yeah.
if you're in the green and you can take some cash off, definitely look at doing that. That's my strategy. But once again, not financial advice.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is great because I feel like sometimes there's not a lot of people sharing thoughts on like, okay, this is what's currently happening. This is what we can do. And it's more like fear. And you're like, okay, well, what do I do with this information? And I really appreciate that because sometimes everyone, like most people in this space are like, just take it off and hide it away. And, like you said, if you can make if you're in the green and you can make some profit, like, or, save yourself. But
For sure. Yeah, like don't get me wrong, I'm not selling all my crypto. I have my long-term hold bags,
yeah.
but I want to be smart too and just okay, like Kraken had to shut off ACH, right? That's a problem. If you're trying to take some profits, you can't move your cash off. So it's like you gotta play the game here a little bit and risk mitigation and see what's potentially coming down the line, and I'm seeing more pain. So I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna take some profits and still hold my long-term bags.
Yeah.
um
Yeah. Like you said, not financial advice, but but it's always good to hear. And like at the end of the day, it's like diversify.
exactly. Yeah. All right, I think those are all our topics. First episode in the books. Thank you, Vanessa. Everybody, check out Vanessa's podcast. Links will be in the description. Go give her a follow on Apple, YouTube, Twitter, all that jazz. All those links will be in the description. Vanessa, we'll have to schedule episode 2, but so far, so good. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. I absolutely love this and hope to catch you in the next one.